The woman in the gray coat paid me $20 cash, but when we checked the security cameras, she was never there. Working the night shift at BrightMart Supercenter in rural Ohio isn't exciting. Just long hours, humming lights, and too many lonely thoughts. I'd been a cashier for almost 3 years, long enough to see every kind of customer. Drunks, shoplifters, even a guy who tried to pay with poker chips. However, the memory of that particular Wednesday night remains etched in my mind, akin to a recurring nightmare. It was close to 11 p.m., those last slow minutes before I could clock out. The store had that strange, heavy quiet that only night brings, the buzzing of fluorescent tubes and the hum of refrigerators in the distance. I was almost hypnotized by the silence when the sliding doors were whispered open. She walked in. Nothing about her screamed danger. At first, middle-aged, black hair falling over her face like a curtain, a pale gray overcoat several sizes too big, clutching a large black handbag to her chest as if it were full of glass. She moved slowly, deliberately, like she was counting every step. I greeted her automatically. She didn't answer. Her eyes, half hidden under her hair, never lifted toward me. She drifted through the aisles, not shopping, not even pretending. Just moving, as if looking for something or someone. 15 minutes later, she finally appeared at my register. Her cart carried only 4 items: a single red candle, a box of coarse salt, a roll of black thread, and an old leather-bound book with no title. The cover was cracked and soft with age, pages yellow as smoke. It looked like something that should have been locked behind glass, not tossed in a grocery cart. That's quite a mix, I joked, scanning the items. She didn't blink, didn't breathe. When the register beeped the total, I saw it. $13.13. I waited for a smile, maybe a comment. Nothing. Just silence and the faint smell of old paper. She pulled a wrinkled 20 from her bag, her hand brushing mine, ice cold, like something from a freezer. "Have a good night," I said. Forcing cheer, she turned and walked out. Not a single word spoken. I sighed, ready to close my drawer, then froze. The receipt wasn't there. I always print receipts automatically, but her transaction had vanished from the register. I checked the digital log. Nothing, no sale, no record. Heart thudding, I called my manager, Tom, to check the cameras. What we saw made the air turn colder. On the screen, there I was, scanning invisible items, talking to thin air. My hands moved as if passing money, but the other side of the counter was empty. No woman, no cart, no candle. Tom frowned. "Are you sure you're okay, Maya? Maybe you're just overtired." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But I could still feel that cold touch on my fingers. That night, driving home, every shadow on the road seemed to breathe. Every passing streetlight dimmed as I went under it. I barely made it to bed before collapsing. When I closed my eyes, she was there, staring. Those lifeless eyes, the faint flicker of candlelight reflecting in them. By morning, I couldn't shake it. The items she'd bought nagged at me: the red candle, salt, black thread, and that nameless book. Out of curiosity or fear, I searched online. They matched the ingredients of an old European ritual said to open a doorway between the living and the dead. A mirror rite used to summon lost souls. That night I promised myself it was all coincidence. Sleep deprivation, nothing more. 2 nights later, just before midnight, I saw her again. She stood near the entrance, motionless. Same gray coat, same bag clutched to her chest. But this time her skin looked almost translucent, like wax under the store lights. I blinked. She was gone. Tom swore he didn't see anyone leave through the doors. After that, strange occurrences began happening at BrightMart. The motion sensors near aisle 9 started triggering even when no one was there. Candles in the decor section fell off shelves for no reason. One night, the intercom clicked on by itself and whispered static that almost sounded like my name. Now, every time I work the night shift, the store feels colder around 11 p.m., the exact time she appeared. Occasionally, the register flickers and shows a total of $13.13, even when I'm not scanning anything. And sometimes, when I count the drawer, a single old $20 bill appears, creased, yellow, faintly damp. No one believes me. Tom says it's burnout. But when the lights buzz low and the aisles go silent, I swear I still see her reflection in the glass doors. Dark hair, gray coat, that black bag pressed against her heart, and every time it happens, I pray she doesn't step inside again. The witch mannequin was gone when I turned around. 5 minutes later, her face was standing inches from mine and she was smiling. If you've ever worked a night shift in a retail store, you know the silence after midnight isn't peaceful, it's alive. I used to tell myself that's just the air conditioner, the hum of the lights, or my imagination. That was before I started at the Ever Mart in New Hampshire, and before the mannequins started moving. Halloween season was always a big deal there. The store transformed into a carnival of cheap tombstones, rubber bats and plastic skeletons. That October, my manager, Mr. Calloway, put me in charge of decorating the seasonal section. Make it perfect. Jake, he said, handing me a checklist. Halloween's where we make real money. Sure thing, I muttered, already dreading it. Those decorations gave me the creeps, especially the new mannequins we got that year. There were 3, a witch, with a wrinkled burlap face and hollow glass eyes, a vampire, tall and thin, its fangs painted crookedly, and a scarecrow, its grin stitched with black thread across rough fabric. They weren't normal mannequins. Their proportions were just slightly off. The heads too big, the arms too long, the hands too human. They stood in the center of the display as if mid-conversation. Even in daylight, they made my skin crawl. My shift started at 9 p.m., long after customers were gone. The store's overhead lights hummed like angry bees. For the first few hours, nothing strange happened. I filled candy buckets, hung fake cobwebs, and rearranged pumpkins. But every time I looked up, I swore the mannequins had shifted. Just a fraction. The scarecrow's head tilted slightly to the left. The witch's hands were higher than before. I blamed fatigue. By midnight, the sound of rustling plastic made me pause. I turned. Nothing. Just rows of skeletons and tombstones. It's probably the vents, I said aloud, forcing a laugh that felt unnatural. Still, the sense of surveillance clung to me like a thick layer of humidity. Around 1 a.m., my coworker Mila arrived to help. Jake, she said, rubbing her arms, Mr. Calloway wants me to check the progress. Good timing, I said. These things are starting to freak me out. She laughed nervously. You mean the scarecrow? Yeah, that thing's nightmare fuel. We worked together for about an hour, restocking shelves, shifting candy displays. Mila kept glancing at the mannequins. I could see her growing uneasy. Then she froze mid-step. Jake, where's the witch? I turned. The spot where the witch had been was empty. My mouth went dry. You moved it, right? She shook her head. I didn't touch it. We searched the aisles. Nothing. Mila suggested maybe Mr. Calloway had moved it earlier, but something in her tone said she didn't believe it either. A few minutes later, Mila went to the stockroom to grab more supplies. I stayed behind pretending to work. Though every sound made my pulse jump, that's when I heard it. A dragging sound, slow and uneven, like burlap scraping tile. I turned toward the main aisle. There she was. The witch stood at the far end, hands raised, fingers bent like claws, her head tilted slightly as if she were studying me. I took one step back. Her head snapped toward me. Who's there? I shouted. My voice bounced off the shelves, no answer. Just the faint rustle of straw behind me. When I spun around, the scarecrow was gone. I bolted for the stockroom. Mila! I shouted, but the room was empty. Her walkie-talkie lay on the floor, still buzzing with faint static. The store lights flickered, plunging me into moments of strobing darkness. Every time they blinked on again, the mannequins were closer. First, the vampire appeared in the doorway, shadows stretching long across the floor. Then the witch was beside it, her burlap face half melted into a grin. Behind them was the scarecrow, its arms spread wide like it was waiting for a hug. I backed into the corner, clutching my flashlight like a weapon. Stay away, I whispered. Even though I knew they weren't alive, they couldn't be. But the witch moved not like a person, more like something sliding between frames of film. One moment she was 10 feet away. The next she was inches from my face. I could smell old dust, hay, and something sour, like mold. Her glass eyes reflected my own terrified face. I swung the flashlight at her head. It hit with a dull thud, and stuck. The surface felt Warm. The witch fell backward, collapsing into a pile of cloth. For a heartbeat, I thought it was over. Then the pile twitched. The vampire's head jerked toward me. Mouth stretched wide, teeth clattering together. I ran. Down the hallway. Through cosmetics, past toys. My breath ragged. My legs shaking. Behind me came the scrape of straw and burlap dragging over tile. The intercom suddenly crackled to life. Jake, come to the stockroom. It was Mila's voice, but wrong. Too flat, too slow, I stopped running. My chest ached. When I turned, the mannequins were gone. The silence that followed was worse than the chase. I walked cautiously toward the back again, every step echoing. The stockroom door stood open. I peeked inside, and froze. The vampire and the scarecrow stood side by side, exactly where I'd left them hours before. Between them, hanging from the ceiling hook meant for signs, was Mila's name tag. The witch's hat lay beneath it. I staggered back, choking on my breath. I don't remember leaving the store, only waking up in my car outside at dawn, trembling. Headlights still on. When I reported everything, Mr. Calloway didn't believe a word. The mannequins were still in place when police came, their burlap faces expressionless, their limbs stiff, no sign of Mila. They assumed she'd walked out during her shift, missing ever since. A week later, I quit, but I still dream about that night. In the dream, I'm back in the seasonal aisle, alone under flickering lights. The mannequins stand where they always were. Witch, vampire, scarecrow, frozen mid-conversation, only now there's a fourth one. It wears Mila's uniform, and every night in that dream, its head slowly turns toward me. He waved at me from the car that followed me home. The police came. But when they arrived, the man was gone, and in the morning, there was a note on my windscreen that said, "See you soon." It was supposed to be a quick errand. Just milk, bread, and maybe a frozen pizza. But that night, the parking lot behind BrightMart Supercenter turned into something I'll never forget. I'd been working late at the diner across town. My uniform still smelled like coffee and fried eggs. The air was sharp and cold, early November in Maine, when your breath shows under the streetlights and the ground crunches with frost. The store was nearly empty when I pulled in. Only a few scattered cars. The kind of quiet that feels heavier than silence, as if the world is holding its breath. Inside, the hum of the fluorescent lights felt too loud. The clerk barely looked up as I grabbed what I needed: milk, bread, eggs, and frozen pizza. 5 minutes, that's all. I swiped my card, stuffed the receipt in my pocket, and walked out. That's when I saw it. A dark sedan parked 3 rows away, headlights off, engine silent. But I could actually feel someone inside watching me. I told myself not to be stupid. Perhaps it was late-night shoppers or someone waiting for a friend. Still, as I pushed the cart toward my car, the hairs on my neck stood up. I loaded the bags quickly, keys ready in my hand like a weapon. And then the sedan's engine started. The sound echoed across the empty lot. It began rolling, slowly forward, tires crunching. Over loose gravel, I froze. It didn't speed up and didn't honk, just drifted closer, quiet as a whisper. The driver's window slid down halfway. A hand emerged, thin, pale, and waved, not friendly. Not playful, just slow mocking. My pulse hammered. "What do you want?" I shouted. No answer. The car just sat there idling. I dived into my car, slammed the door, and locked it. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped the keys. When I reversed, the sedan's headlights turned on, 2 cold beams slicing through the dark. I pulled out fast, trying not to panic. The roads were nearly empty, wet from drizzle. I turned left toward my apartment, watching the mirror the whole time. The sedan followed. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe coincidence. Maybe he lived the same way. But every turn I made, he matched. Left at the gas station, he turned. Right at the old post office, he followed. Through the empty intersection, still there, keeping the same distance. It wasn't random. I could feel the tension building behind me. like static before lightning. My heart pounded as I made a sudden right onto Miller Street, a dead-end road I knew well. I wanted to see if he'd follow. He did. That was the moment when I realized it was no longer a coincidence. I slammed on my brakes, threw the car in reverse, and turned back toward the main road. My headlights caught the driver's silhouette for half a second, just a shape. The driver, tall and thin, remained motionless. No face. He didn't chase. The sedan simply turned around and disappeared into the fog. I drove straight to a gas station off Highway 11, parked under the bright lights, and sat there shaking. 10 minutes passed. No sign of the sedan. I laughed nervously, telling myself it was nothing, just a freaky encounter. But when I pulled into my apartment complex 15 minutes later, the laughter died, because the sedan was there. The sedan was parked across the lot under a broken streetlight. Same dent on the rear door, same missing hubcap. I couldn't see inside. The windows were too dark. I didn't wait to find out. I ran inside, locked every door, pulled the blinds shut, and tried to calm my breathing. "It's fine," I whispered to myself. "You're safe. You're home." But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was standing right outside. Hours passed. Sometime after 2 a.m., I checked the window again, careful not to move the blinds too much. He was there. A man, standing beneath the flickering street lamp. Tall, lank hair falling across his face, hands buried in the pockets of a long coat, and he was staring directly at my apartment. I froze, every nerve screaming to move, but my body refused. His head tilted slightly like he was studying me. I grabbed my phone and called 911. "There's a man outside," I said, voice trembling. He followed me home. "He's just standing there. The dispatcher told me to stay inside. An officer was on the way. I kept watching him. He didn't move. I didn't pace, didn't speak. Just stood still, the glow of the lamp flickering over his motionless face. When the red and blue lights finally flashed across the parking lot, relief hit me so hard I almost cried. But as soon as the police car pulled in, he was gone. Vanished. The officer searched the area and checked the camera near the lot's entrance. Nothing. No car. No footprints. No man. I showed him where the sedan had been parked. He said, "Probably just a mistaken tail. You'd be surprised how many people follow GPS wrong at night." He smiled, and that explained everything. I didn't sleep. Every creak of the floorboards made my heart jump. Every passing car sent light flashing across my walls like headlights. At dawn, I forced myself outside. The sky was pale gray, the air freezing. My windscreen was fogged with dew. I wiped it with my sleeve and stopped breathing. There, written in crooked black ink, were 3 words: "See you soon." I moved out that week. New apartment. New town. New routine. But I still check the parking lot every night before bed, because sometimes, just sometimes, I see a black sedan parked down the block, headlights off, engine quiet, and when I squint through the blinds, I swear I can see a hand rising slowly behind the window. The shopping cart was moving on its own. I thought it was a prank, until I saw the blood dripping from its wheels. I've worked plenty of night shifts, but nothing feels emptier than a closed store after midnight. The eerie silence between aisles, when even your footsteps seem too loud, can deceive you. For 2 years, I'd been part of the night crew at Megamart in Missouri. It was a pleasant gig, easy pay, steady hours, quiet. Until nightfall. The cart screamed. It started like any other Tuesday we'd just closed, and the store lights dimmed into that soft hum that always made me feel half asleep. There were 3 of us that night. Ryan, restocking electronics, Tasha, working seasonally, and I, Daniel, stuck in home goods, reorganizing endless boxes of towels. It was close to 2 a.m. when I heard it. A screeching sound, metallic and sharp, echoing through the aisles. At first, I thought it was one of the cleaning crew rolling carts, but the noise didn't match. It was higher and thinner, almost like nails dragged across steel. I froze, towel in hand. "Ryan?" I called out. No response. "Tasha?" Only silence. Then it came again. Closer this time. Screech! The sound bounced between aisles, making it impossible to tell where it came from. I followed the echo toward the front registers, every step louder than it should have been. The lights flickered as I turned the corners, and that's when I saw it. A shopping cart stood in the middle of the aisle. Old, rusted, one wheel bent. We'd thrown it out weeks ago. Its front wheel spun slowly, creaking as if someone had just pushed it. I stared. No one was there. Then I saw the trail beneath it, dark, wet. A thin streak ran down the tile, resembling spilt paint. But it wasn't paint. It was blood. My throat tightened. I stumbled backward, bumping into a display. "Ryan!" I yelled again. "Get up here, man." Footsteps echoed ours. Ryan appeared, annoyed. "What the hell, dude? You trying to scare me?" I pointed. "Do you see that?" He looked. The cart was still there. The dark streak glistened under the lights. "Jesus," he muttered. "Is that blood?" Before I could answer, the cart moved, slowly at first. Then faster. Its wheels squealed as it began to roll toward the produce section, on its own. Ryan swore. "What kind of joke is this?" "I'm not doing anything," I yelled, my pulse spiking. Tasha came running from the back, pale and breathless. "Why are you two shouting? What's going on?" The sight of the trail brought her to a halt. "Oh my God, is that blood?" The cart gave another long, shuddering screech that pierced the air, and then it turned. The handle twisted, wheels grinding. Like invisible hands were steering it, it faced us. "Back up," Ryan whispered. The three of us inched away. The sound grew louder, reverberating through our skulls. It wasn't just a noise anymore, it was screaming, like metal tearing itself apart. The lights flickered violently. With each flash, the cart looked different, bent, twisted. It was twisted and warped, resembling melting steel. And in one flicker, I saw it. A face. The face emerged from the metal mesh. The face was sunken, its mouth open in a silent howl. Ryan grabbed my arm. "Tell me you saw that." Before I could speak, the cart bolted, flying down the aisle, slamming into the apple display at the end with a thunderous crash. Apples rolled everywhere, Tasha screamed. "That's not possible." The cart turned again, its wheels screeching, dragging a fresh streak of blood. We ran. The screaming followed us down the aisles. Echoing through the entire store, I could hear it behind me, faster, closer. We dived into the stockroom, slamming the door shut. Ryan jammed a metal rod through the handle to keep it closed. For a moment, there was silence. We stood in the dark, breathing hard, hearts pounding, then bang. Something hit the door, hard, another bang, and another. The metal rattled as the shrieking began again, louder than before. "Daniel," Tasha whispered, voice shaking. "What if it gets through?" I didn't answer. A final crash and the door burst inward. Swinging violently, the cart rolled inside. It stopped in the middle of the room, dripping blood onto the concrete floor. The screaming cut off. Silence. Then the lights flickered once more, and the face was back, pressed against the metal, distorted and weeping. Without thinking, I grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and hurled it at the cart. It hit dead centers. The impact rang through the room like thunder. The cart toppled over, and everything went still. No sound. There were no flickering lights, just stillness. Morning came. We told the manager everything, the blood, the movements, and the face. He laughed it off. "You kids pulled a clever prank," he said. "That cart's been in the disposal pile for weeks." We took him to the stockroom. The cart was there, but twisted and melted into a heap of rust and scrap. The blood was gone, not cleaned. Gone, the police came. They wrote it up as a malfunctioning cleaning machine. But I know what I saw. We all do. I quit Megamart the next day. Ryan stayed one more week. Then one night, I got a text from him. Heard it scream again. He didn't show up for his next shift. No one's seen him since. Now, whenever I walk past a cart in a parking lot, I listen. If the metal creaks too long, if the wheel spins without reason, if I hear that faint, shrill sound in the distance, I don't wait to find out because I know what comes next. The screaming cart always finds a new aisle. The cameras showed me talking to no one, but I swear, something was standing in aisle 14 whispering my name. If you've ever worked the night shift at a big box store, you know that feeling. The one that crawls up your spine when everything goes quiet. It's not peace. It's pressure, like the silence is watching you. I've been at Shopmore Supercenter in Oregon for nearly a year now. The job's fine. Clock in. Stock shelves, clock out, but every person who's worked the night shift here says the same thing and never stay. Alone in aisle 14 after midnight, I thought, that was just another warehouse. Rumor, I don't anymore. It started one Tuesday night. We'd closed at 11, and the store was locked tight. Only 4 of us inside. Me, Ethan, Greg, Laura, and our manager, Linda. Linda gave us the usual assignments before heading to the office. Ethan, take the household. Greg, you've got tools. Laura, stay near customer service. Household meant aisle 14, long and narrow, full of mirrors, candles, and picture frames, things that reflected light in weird ways. I pushed my cart down the aisle, humming to fill the silence. Every sound echoed, the squeak of the wheels, the rustle of plastic. After a few minutes, I got that feeling again, the one where you know you're not alone. I looked up. At the far end of the aisle, just beyond the flickering light, something moved. It wasn't swift, just a faint shuffle. Too tall to be Greg, it was too dark to be a shadow. Hey, I called out. Who's there? No answer. I rounded the corner, nothing, just shelves of candles staring back at me. I tried to shake it off, but the unease clung to me. A few minutes later, I heard whispering. At first, I thought it was my co-workers in the next aisle, talking low, but the longer I listened, the clearer it got. It wasn't words. It was a voice trying to sound like words. Low, raspy. The voice was directly above me. I looked up. Empty ceiling. There were no vents or speakers present. All I could hear was the gentle hum of lights. Greg, I called out. Quit messing with me. Nothing. The whisper came again, closer this time. This time it was my name that was spoken. Ethan. I froze, my heart hammered. I backed toward the cart, gripping it tight like it could protect me. But when I looked down the aisle again, I saw it, a shape, tall, wrong, standing at the end of aisle 14, half hidden in the shadows. Its limbs were too long and too thin, like wires holding up skin. Its head nearly brushed the ceiling. It didn't move. It just watched me. I blinked, and it was gone. Every hair on my body stood on end. I didn't even think. I just ran straight to the break room. Linda was there, sipping coffee, scrolling on her phone. Linda, I said, out of breath, there's something in aisle 14. She raised an eyebrow. Something? Someone. I don't know, tall, black, it just disappeared. She sighed, clearly unimpressed. Probably a reflection. Relax, Ethan. No, I insisted. Can we check the cameras? She shrugged. Fine. We went to the security office. Linda pulled up the feed from aisle 14. There, I said, pointing. Right around that corner. She clicked play. On screen, there I was, stocking shelves, turning around, looking terrified. I was speaking to a blank screen. Nothing else. No shape. No shadow. Linda frowned. Are you sure you're not overtired? I saw it, I said. I heard it whispered. She rewound the footage. Same thing. Just me, talking to nothing. The longer I watched, the colder I felt. Because in one frame, just a flicker, something tall and dark seemed to blur behind me. Gone the next second. Linda didn't see it. But I did. The next night, I tried to avoid aisle 14. I spent extra time working on toys, in storage and in other areas. But at midnight, Linda radioed, Ethan, finish stocking aisle 14 before you clock out. My stomach dropped. I told myself I'd just do it quick, in and out. The aisle felt colder than usual. The lights buzzed faintly, flickering every few seconds. Halfway through restocking the candles, the whispering started again. Ethan. I froze, then I heard a second voice. Stay. I turned slowly. At the far end stood the figure again. Clearer now. Its skin looked like smoke, shifting, twitching in slow motion. No eyes. No mouth. Just a dark pit of a face that seemed to swallow the light. It raised one long arm, pointing straight at me. The air around me felt heavy, Like breathing underwater, I tried to run, but my legs barely moved. Then the lights went out. The only thing I could hear was the cart's wheels creaking softly beside me. And that whisper. "Closer now, you shouldn't have stayed." I bolted. My flashlight beam swung wildly as I ran. Something brushed my shoulder, cold and sharp. I didn't look back. When I burst through the double doors into the break room, the others jumped. "Dude, what happened?" Greg said, eyes wide. I was shaking so badly I could barely speak. "It was there," I whispered. "It touched me." They didn't believe me. But when Linda checked the cameras later, she said the same thing I'd seen before. Only me. Alone. Except one frame again. A black shape towered behind me. Long arms. No face, then static. They found me the next morning asleep under the break room table. Muttering nonsense. I don't remember lying down. I don't remember leaving aisle 14. Linda sent me home for a few days of rest. I never went back. That was 6 months ago. Sometimes, when I'm alone in a store, even just shopping, I hear a faint, low whisper above the shelves, and if I glance down a long, empty aisle, I swear I can see the figure standing there again, waiting. Aisle 14 is empty now. They closed it off and said it was under renovation, but the workers say at night, the lights flicker on their own, and sometimes the inventory system pings a single entry before midnight. Item restocked. 1, aisle 14.